Rivals Radio.
All right, welcome back to the Deep Dive. It's Rivals Radio time again.
More breaking news.
That's right, another GM spot's been filled in the Football Rivals Pro League.
Lots of movement around the league lately.
For sure. You know, if you've been following this, the Buffalo Brawlers just locked in.
Doug Baxter.
We are diving into the Pittsburgh Prowlers, and their big decision, they've made their pick for their first ever GM and head coach.
And it's an interesting choice, that's for sure.
Yeah, so the Prowlers are putting all their chips in on Shaka Caesar.
Wow, the former offensive coordinator for the Virginia Beach Bombers.
Yeah, and think about that for a second. He's not just the head coach. He's running the whole show as GM, too.
That's a lot of responsibility. Not your typical setup, is it?
No, it suggests they have a ton of confidence in him right off the bat.
Makes you wonder what they see in him.
For sure. So, what do we know about this guy who's now holding the reins in Pittsburgh? Well, he led the Bombers to a top 15 offense last year.
In the 0 year. Not an easy feat in such talented league.
Definitely not.
And especially considering it hasn't been that long since he started coaching professionally. Before the Bombers, he was an offensive advisor at Ole Miss, right?
Yeah, and even before that, it gets even more interesting. He actually led a mid-major college program to 2 conference championships.
2?
2. And then he made the jump to the pros. But get this, not as a coach at first. He was a director of scouting for a championship team.
So he's got this varied experience that's pretty fascinating. I mean, he hasn't been a head coach for long, but all that time as a scout, that could give him a real edge when it comes to judging talent, building a team from scratch.
Totally. Like he's seen the game from all sides, you know.
Absolutely.
So the big question is for everyone listening, is this a risky move or a stroke of genius by the Prowlers? You got to keep that in mind as we go through all of this.
Yeah, because it's a big gamble.
It really is,
Yeah.
but his coaching philosophy might give us some clues.
Right, because it tells us a lot about his approach.
It does. So from what we've gathered, Caesar is all about building a well-rounded team. He focuses on athleticism, character, and versatility.
Not just looking for players who fit a rigid system.
Right. He wants players who can adapt to different roles, wear multiple hats on the field. Like, adaptability is the name of the game for Coach Caesar.
Interesting. And that's particularly interesting when you think about the Prowlers' current roster.
Exactly. Because they've got some real exciting pieces already in place, including 2 X-Factor players.
Whoa, 2?
2. Now, just a quick reminder for anyone new to Rivals, X-Factor players, they have these unique game-changing abilities. They can totally shift the momentum.
Yeah, they can be game changers.
Huge difference makers, and the Prowlers are the only team with 2 of these powerhouses.
Who are they? Who are we talking about?
Well, they've got Jarius Harper, an absolute beast at running back.
Yeah, he's amazing.
He's a dual-threat weapon. Speed, vision. He can even catch passes out of the backfield. I mean, any coach would dream of having him on their team.
And then there's Jared Newman at cornerback. Led the league in interceptions last year.
Talk about a ball hawk.
That's right. So they've got these proven stars and a few other key players like Connor Fowler, veteran leader on defense, likely to be team captain.
Right. And then there's Clay Graham, young middle linebacker, led the team in tackles last year. Just an absolute unit in the middle of the field.
A real force.
But Caesar's also been pretty vocal about how impressed he is with Will Clayton, young, strong safety with, quote, immense talent, end quote.
He sees the potential there.
Clearly. And then, of course, there's Evan McCord at quarterback. Solid player, but Caesar has already hinted at wanting to bring in more offensive power through the draft.
So he's got some great pieces to work with, but also some areas to improve.
Right. And this is where his background in scouting could be a major asset.
Definitely. So, speaking of the draft, the Prowlers have the 15th overall pick. Not ideal, but you never know.
There's always talent to be found later in the draft. What do you think he'll prioritize?
Given his emphasis on versatility, I wouldn't be surprised if he went after someone who can contribute multiple ways. Maybe a quarterback who can also run the ball effectively, or an offensive lineman who's good at both pass protection and run blocking.
That definitely fits his philosophy. And don't forget, those Bombers players, Stanley Jenkins and Jonathan Wiley, were very vocal about supporting Caesar getting a head coaching job.
That says a lot.
Right. It suggests he's not just a good coach, but a good leader. Someone who can build a positive team culture. And that's huge for success in any sport.
Absolutely crucial.
So you listening at home, I want you to think about this. How do you think Caesar's adaptable philosophy is going to mesh with this Prowlers roster? Will it be a smooth transition? Or are there potential clashes we should be looking out for?
It's a question we need to consider. It's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out, that's for sure. Especially in a tough division like the Apex Conference.
Oh, yeah?
Every game is a dogfight.
Right, but that's what makes it so exciting.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about the draft.
Yeah, draft, always fun.
The Prowlers are sitting at pick 15.
Not the best spot.
But you never know. This is where Caesar's scouting background could really come into play.
Be a huge advantage.
He's got years of experience evaluating talent. He might see potential where others don't.
That's what they're hoping for. And based on everything we've talked about, his philosophy and all that, I think he's going to be looking for players who can contribute in multiple ways, like a quarterback who can also run the ball.
Oh, yeah, a dual threat.
A dual threat, someone who can make plays with their legs when things break down. And if that's the case, one name that pops into my head is Johnny McNamara from Texas A&M.
Johnny Matt.
He just led his team to the national championship in season 1. That kind of experience, that winning mentality, that's hard to find.
That's invaluable. He's got that it factor, poise, leadership, the ability to make things happen. He'd be a really good fit for the Prowlers.
I think so too. But another option, if they're looking for a quarterback, more of a traditional pocket passer who can still develop into a star, they might go with Smokey Smith from NC State.
Smokey Smith.
Yeah, known for his accuracy, his ability to read defenses. He might not be the flashiest player, but he gets the job done.
And remember, Caesar isn't looking for players who fit a specific mold. He wants players who can adapt, who can learn and grow. Smokey Smith could definitely thrive in that kind of environment.
I think so. But
Yeah.
even though they've already got a solid running back with Jarius Harper, I could also see Caesar going after an offensive lineman early in the draft.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You got to protect your assets. A strong offensive line is the foundation of any good offense. It would give Harper even more room to run.
Absolutely, and if they go in that direction, Carlos Copeland, huge tackle from Michigan. This guy is a road grader in the run game. And he has the potential to be a dominant pass protector at the pro level.
He would be a great addition.
Yeah.
And remember, they're in the Apex Conference, known for those tough physical defenses. You need a guy like Copeland to hold the line against those pass rushers.
For sure. So we've got a couple of potential quarterbacks who fit Caesar's philosophy and a dominant offensive lineman who could make an immediate impact. So for you listening, what do you think? Are these the kind of moves you would be making if you were in Coach Caesar's shoes?
It's really exciting to think about the possibilities. This is what makes the draft so unpredictable and fun to follow.
And that's what we're here for, right? Breaking it all down, giving you the insights you need.
Exactly. But let's shift gears for a second.
Okay.
You listening at home, remember that deadline for GM applications is coming up fast.
January 15th.
If you've ever dreamed of building your own football dynasty, now's your chance. Go to the Football Rivals website and throw your hat in the ring. Who knows, maybe you'll be the next Shaka Caesar.
Maybe you will. All right, back to Coach Caesar and the Prowlers. We've talked a lot about the draft. Haven't really touched on his potential impact on the team culture, though.
That's an important point. Remember what those Bombers players said about his leadership?
Yeah, they really respected him.
So what do you think he'll bring to the locker room in Pittsburgh?
Well, from what we've gathered, Caesar seems to be a player's coach. Someone who values relationships, communication, creating a positive, supportive environment.
A good culture.
Yeah, exactly. And he's talked about the importance of character and versatility. And I think that goes beyond just what happens on the field. He wants players who are good teammates, who are willing to learn to adapt.
And that's so important for building a strong team. Especially with a young team like the Prowlers, having a leader like Caesar could be the key.
Could be a game changer. And it's like, it's almost like he's been working towards this his entire career. From college coach to pro scout to offensive coordinator, he's got all this experience at every level of the game.
And now he gets to put it all together as the GM and head coach of the Pittsburgh Prowlers. It's a huge opportunity.
It is. So going back to that question we posed at the beginning, is this a risky move by the Prowlers or a stroke of genius? We've looked at his background, his coaching philosophy, the Prowlers roster, the potential draft picks, the tough competition in the Apex Conference. So what do you think? Is Shaka Caesar the right man for the job?
Lots to consider.
We've given you a lot to think about, but this is where the real fun begins. The draft is right around the corner, and then the season kicks off. We'll be watching closely to see how it all unfolds.
For sure. And we'll be back with you every step of the way, breaking down all the action, offering our insights. So stay tuned to the deep dive for all your Rivals radio coverage.
You know what's really interesting about all this? It's not just the experience or the philosophy or even the roster. There's just something about Shaka Caesar. It's like you can feel the potential. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. He's got that energy, that ambition. Like, he's not just satisfied with being a head coach. He wants to build something special. And this is his chance, you know? He's got this amazing opportunity to do it his way.
Yeah. He's not afraid to take risks. I mean, look at this, the GM and head coach role. And he's got a history of proving people wrong. Remember, he took a mid-major college program to 2 conference championships. So who's to say he can't do the same thing with the Prowlers?
I mean, it's a long shot, don't get me wrong. The Apex is a tough division. But you can't rule it out.
You can't.
Think about it. If he drafts well, if he gets those X-Factor players performing at their best, if he can build that winning culture he's known for,
They could be a real contender.
exactly.
They might not be the favorites this year, but they could definitely shake things up. Imagine that.
A first-year GM and head coach leading the Prowlers to the playoffs.
Would be an incredible story.
It really would. He'd be a legend.
Instant legend.
But even if it takes a little time, you know, even if they don't reach those heights right away, the Prowlers are going to be a much more interesting team to watch with Caesar in charge.
No doubt about it. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to hear from you at home. What are your predictions for the Prowlers with Shaka Caesar calling the shots? Think they can make a playoff push this year? Or is it going to take a bit longer for his vision to really take hold? We've given you all the information. Now it's up to you to decide. And that's the beauty of Football Rivals, right? It's not just watching the games. It's about getting involved in the storylines, the personalities, the decisions that shape the league. And hey, who knows? Maybe some of you listening right now will be the ones making those decisions someday. Don't forget, that GM application deadline is coming up quick, January 15th. So if you've got the football knowledge, the leadership skills, and that fire in your belly to build a championship team, this is your chance.
Don't miss out.
We're all excited to see what the future holds for Shaka Caesar and the Pittsburgh Prowlers. It's just the beginning of their journey.
And we'll be here for every step, breaking down all the action, sharing our analysis.
So make sure you stick with the deep dive for all your Rivals radio coverage.
We'll be back soon with more insights, more analysis, and all the breaking news from the Football Rivals Pro League.
Until then, keep those rivalries burning bright.
It's Rivals Radio.